how are you guys doing? So it is after 5:30 p.m. so it's after our working hours, at least my working hours. So I'm still here because I was invited to a event this evening. It was last minute invite, but it's all good. I say yes. So I'm just here for a little bit until it's time for me to head out, and I figure I could sit down and have a chit chat with you guys. So if you're here for the conversation, grab you a cup of tea and let's talk. It's been a while, I know. Hi guys, how is everyone doing? I want to know. Let me know in the comments. So like I said, it's after hours. I have the doors locked, so hopefully no one tries to come in because we're locked, we're closed, okay? So anyways, I wanted to come on here and chit chat. I've been wanting to make this video forever and never have time, so let's talk about it. So as you guys know, I'm a registered nurse. I'm now a health insurance agency owner. I run my own company and I'm loving it, okay? So I do Medicare, Marketplace health insurance, also known as ACA, also known as Obamacare, and some life insurance as well. But I wanted to talk about how I was able to make 6 figures as a registered nurse. The reason why I wanted to talk about this is because a lot of nurses do well and some don't do that well. You know, like I say not well, they may not make 6 figures. So just because you're a nurse doesn't mean you make 6 figures. A lot of people have this idea that, oh, nurses make a lot and whatever, and that's not always the case. But I personally wanted to make a good living. I wanted to make a good amount of money. So that was my goal, to make 6 figures, and I accomplished that. And I want to talk about how I was able to actually do that. So first, let's start out how much I made when I first started working. So I was making about $8.50 per hour. When I first started working, I was working as a certified nursing assistant. And back then, it's so funny, back then, even though I was making only $8.50 per hour, it wasn't too bad. Like, I don't know, I managed my bills pretty well. I worked extra shifts or whatever the case may be, and I did pretty well. Of course, now you can't survive off of $8.50 per hour, which is crazy because I think Georgia, the minimum wage is still pretty low. I don't remember exactly what it is, but it's pretty low. So anyways, so I was making $8.50 per hour, and of course I wanted to make more than that. So I ended up going to school for my LPN, which is licensed practical nurse. And when I graduated from the LPN program, I was like in my early 20s. Don't remember exactly the date or whatever. I was making about $20 an hour then. And I loved my job. I worked as a pediatric nurse, and I would do home care, and I would take care of the kids. So pediatric is for kids. So I would take care of the kids, and they had like tracheostomy tubes and feeding tubes, and I just loved them. So that was my thing. I stayed with that company for about 8 years or so. But as I was working there, I was working towards my RN, which is registered nurse, obviously. So I finally completed the RN program. It took me about 4 years or so to complete the RN program. So the first 4 or 5 years, I just worked as a LPN, and then I made about, I don't know, $50,000 or so a year. So anyways, I got my RN, and I was super excited, right? Super excited. Finally got the RN title. And I applied for, you know, nursing jobs or whatever the case may be. And I was only offered like a little more from the LPN, right? So I think I was making about $27 an hour when I got my first RN job. And $27 an hour is not six figures, okay? So like I said, I was making about $27 an hour as a registered nurse. And with that, you're not gonna make $100,000 a year or more. You're not gonna make six figures unless you work a lot of hours, right? So I remember one day, I seen a guy come into the nursing home where I was working at. He had on regular clothes. I feel like he had on a tie. Like he was dressed like professional, and I zoomed in on his badge and I was like, what is that? And it said MDS coordinator, RN MDS coordinator. So I went home and I Googled MDS coordinator because I was like, I want to be what he's doing. I want to do that, okay? So I Googled it and I realized what it was. So basically, MDS coordinator is when you are doing assessments for Medicare and Medicaid billing for the nursing homes, right? So if you work in a nursing home, you will go in the room, ask your residents a series of questions. You have meetings with therapy, and you basically assessing the residents' care and the treatments they're getting and all of that, and you pretty much code all of that, gather all the information, and that's how the nursing homes get reimbursed. So I just was doing a lot of research, and then I was going into like these chat rooms where nurses would talk about, oh, how much are you making as MDS coordinator? You know, they was all giving each other the inside scoop of how much they was making, how did they get raises, and how did they get pay increases and such. I was in there like I was an MDS coordinator, and I was not. So anyways, I researched how to become an MDS coordinator. I realized that I had to get certified. I went to New York to do the certification, and I was like, I am going to do this. So I went to New York, did the class, did the certification, came home, studied, and passed the certification. Didn't know nothing about MDS, didn't know nothing about it, just from the course, right? So I started going on job interviews. This is where it got tricky. So of course they're like, do you have any experience? No. I got to start somewhere, right? So I remember taking the position, the only company that was willing to give me a chance, but it was a very small facility. It was only 60 beds. So I was like, I can do this. Driving an hour and a half. Have to pick up your kids from school and all that. Crazy. So I decided to take the position because I wanted to master this. I was going to take the MDS coordinator position to be my ticket to get me to six figures. That was going to be my ticket, okay? I had already made up my mind. So anyways, I'm working at this facility. It's only 60 beds or whatever, and they had to train me. I did tell them I didn't have an experience, but they said they were going to train me. So I am editing the video, and I noticed that I left some things out. So this is post-edit. So I'm going to add a few things, some key things that I think is important. So at this point, this was my first MDS coordinator position. And because I had no experience and it was a small facility, I was the only coordinator in that building. They started me at $40,000 a year. So that was my salary at this particular position. So they had to train me. So the girl would come in, should train me, but this was the kicker. I was so slow because we had to do these assessments, right? So each assessment would take about 45 minutes, but it would take me like half of the day because I didn't know what I was doing. So I was there for about, I don't know, maybe 4 weeks or so. And I had this feeling, I was getting this vibe that they was going to get rid of me. Like they was going to fire me because I was too slow. I was learning it, but I was too slow. So I remember one day I get a call, right? I was the only person working in the office. Actually, there was another person that shared that little small office space with me, but I got a call, but no one was in the office when I got the call. So it was a recruiter, guys. So a recruiter called and said, are you happy with where you're working at? I am a recruiter for MDS nurses. And I was already driving an hour and a half, and I already felt like they was going to fire me because I was slow. So I told the lady, yes, I was interested and all of that, right? She said, you know, how much experience did you had and all this stuff. I told them 6 months. But anyways. So she was like, okay, I'm gonna take on your information. There's a facility that is interested. Can you go on an interview, blah, blah. So I was like, absolutely, and all that, right? So anyways, got the lady information. I gave her my email and all that so that way we could stay in touch, right? So literally that same week, the administrator called me to her office, and she basically said that it wasn't working out and I could do 11 to 7. Like, you want me to work midnight? Like overnight? Like, no. So I declined and I went home, right? Got fired, went home, whatever. So anyway, so I go home a little hurt, but then a week later, the recruiter called and said that the company was interested in me coming in for an interview. So I was super excited. So I go back online and I'm reviewing all these things nurses are saying about how to make more money with this position and all that, right? I still don't know what I'm doing, but I'm studying how to answer the questions with this interview. I'm preparing myself with this interview because I'm like, I gotta get this job. So anyways, I update my resume and all that stuff, and I go in for my interview, and I told them I only had 6 months experience, but you know, I'm a fast learner, blah, blah, blah. And I told them that I will help your company get the highest reimbursement. I got that from the forum what the nurses said. I said, oh yeah, I can help your company get the highest reimbursement. I'm detailed oriented, you know, whatever. So I did well with the interview, right? So they offered me the position. They said, well, you only have 6 months, so we're going to pay you 60, I think it was 60,000. I think it was 60,000. So I tried to get a little more. They was like, no, you don't have enough experience. We're gonna pay you 60,000. I was like, okay, that's cool. So I did say that you know, I still freshly new. I only have 6 months of experience. So they said, okay, we will, you know, get you up to speed and all that, right? So I remember when I first went to work, like my first day joining the team and all of that. So I was the MDS director. They gave me the director role because the individual that was already in the department, they didn't want to give her the director role. So this girl is my assistant. And this is my first time having a director position, okay? So I go to work, and then, you know, I go to the meetings and all of that jazz. And I meet the regional individual that's over the MDS department. So I remember this clear as day. His name is Garnett. I can never forget this guy whatsoever. He comes in, he talks to me. He's like, we're going to try this out with you. We usually don't offer someone a position with only 6 months of experience. So we're going to try this out with you. So he gives me this huge manual, the MDS manual. That thing is like the Bible of coding, of the rules, the regulations, everything. He's like, take this home. He gave me like the key things he wanted me to print out. He's like, I want you to read each section at a time, like each section at a time, right? So like section A, there's a series of questions you have to interview, whatever. So there's like different sections in the MDS form. So anyway, so I'm looking at this stuff. I'm like, this is so much information. And one thing he said to me that changed my life forever. He said, we're gonna try this out. If this does not work, we're gonna have to let you go. Woo! When he said we're gonna have to let you go, and I had just got fired, right? Because the thing is, back in the day, well, even now, it's so easy to get a nursing job. You can literally go across the street and get you a nursing job. So you don't usually hear we will let you go if you don't get this right? Even though I just got fired. But it's so easy for me to get a nursing job, but this is not easy to get. The MDS coordinator position is not an easy position to get because you're dealing with reimbursement. Guys, let me tell you what I did, okay? I took that manual home and I studied it. I made flashcards. I made flashcards on different terminology because it's nothing like in nursing school. Nursing school does not teach you this. This is more of an administrative position. So I would make flashcards about the terminology, make flashcards on how you add up the different rates for reimbursement, make flashcards for like all of the key things that would get you the top dollar for coding, right? I worked my butt off with this job, with this company. I was there for 5 years. I worked there. I was there early in the morning. I would leave late. I would literally leave work, pick up my kids from daycare or whatever. I would go home, I would make dinner. I would give my kids a bath. I would put my kids to bed, do the whole nighttime routine. And if I had to get assessments done so they won't be late, I will go back to work and literally be there doing assessments. Okay? Because I wasn't going to lose this job this time. I was not going to lose this position this time. I did so well with that company. I ended up making that company $1 million. Okay? I remember my director of nursing had went to a meeting with other unit managers, and one of the unit managers, we was cool, and she came back and told me, I was in this position at that point for about a year, and she said they had a meeting, and they said, this is giving me chills that I'm thinking about it, they said that Patricia, they said that I was the top reimbursements out of the whole company. I mean the whole company. We had like 10 buildings. I was number one. I was number one in making sure that all the assessments was done on time. I was number one with hitting our numbers and getting all our reimbursement. Because this is the thing about this position. You have to be very attention to detail, right? So, say for example, someone's on oxygen, you get an amount of money for that. If someone is getting therapy, depending on how much therapy they're getting, you get an amount of money for that. If someone is getting speech therapy, you get an amount of money for that. If someone, it's like so many different things you have to capture. So if you don't capture these things, then the facility is not going to get paid what they're supposed to get paid. So say for example, you get a little more money if this person is on oxygen, but you're rushing through the assessment and you didn't put that the person is on oxygen. Then guess what? They're not going to get as much as they should have gotten because you're not as detailed. I was so detailed. I would interview nurses. I would be like, you need to put that in the note. Like, he's getting oxygen. I don't see it in the note. I don't see it in the MAR. That's where they document their medications. I don't see it on the MAR. I need you to write me a note that he received oxygen. I was so good. It was insane. And I remember we're in the meeting and regional was in the meeting, right? And I remember saying, oh, we're going to get this amount for reimbursement because I always have these meetings. Like, say the highest reimbursement was like $700 a day. I would try my best to get that person's reimbursement to $700 a day. Whatever I need to do to make sure we cross our T's, we dot our I's, we're going to do that. If I have to go to nursing and say, you need to write this note, if I have to have a meeting every day with therapy to make sure I capture all the meetings, all the minutes that they're getting. Listen, I was a beast. I was a beast, right? So remember, I'm only making $60K at this point. Only making $60K. So I say about a year after I was number one and all of that, I asked for a raise and they said, no, They didn't want me to know I was #1 in the first place. They did not want me to know, baby. They did not want me to know. So I said, okay, that's cool. #1 rule, getting more money, is getting you another job offer. So I started looking for a job. Started looking for another job. Now I could talk the talk. I could walk the walk. And I can show you proof of my record. I can show you proof now. Now I'm not just winging it on no interview, right? So I go to interviews. I get a job offer of $5,000 more. So my resignation, I am going to be leaving. And it was like, why? Why are you leaving? Da-da-da-da. I'm like, more money. I'm leaving for more money. And I was like, how much more did the other job offer you? They offered me this, right? We'll match it. All right. That was my first raise, as far as like me being vocal, saying I want a raise, as far as me going after it myself by putting me in a position to get a raise, and putting myself in a position where they can't tell me no about a raise because I'm making you money. Okay? So you want to keep making your $1 million or not? Millions of dollars or not? Or you want to go hire some MDS coordinator that's been doing this for 10 years and she don't care about your reimbursement. She just going by, oh, I've been doing this for 10 years or whatever. Not that detailed. Or you want to keep this hungry young professional at the table. All right? All right. So that's how you play your game, #1. All right? So anyways, I got my raise. I'm happy. And guess what? Now I have team members that leaves the company, right? They work for, let's say they work in the business department or they work in the social services department. And someone might say, we need a good MDS coordinator. Do you guys know a good MDS coordinator? Oh, I used to work with Patricia. She is great. Give her a call. Let's see if she's interested. So I did stay at my position for a while. I would get offers and I would say no, because you know you feel a little guilty because they gave you a raise. You know, you make a little more, so you feel guilty, right? So at one point, the team had broken up. Because one thing I would say about that company, I love the team members that I work with. I adored my DON, Director of Nursing, the unit managers. We were all cool. Administrator, we was all cool. It got to the point where no one was working there anymore. Like the DON left, unit manager left. So okay, I have a great team, not anymore. And I would love to make more, and my goal is to make 100,000. So at that point, after working there for years, I decided to start looking for another position. So I started applying, and I got a job offer of $85,000, I believe it was. Yeah, it was $85,000, and I was like, I guess it's time for me to go. I guess it's time for me to go. So I took that position. Okay, so like I said, I was making $85,000 a year at this particular position. However, I forgot a whole position. So like I said, I was working at my second MDS director role, right? When I was working there, I actually got another offer. So I took that offer. At this particular position, I got offered $75,000 per year. And this particular position was a little far from my home. So I did stay there for 1 year. So like I said, I was there for 1 year and I got a phone call. And it was another recruiter, and they offered me my actual position that I was just talking about. And that's how I made the $85,000, okay? So when I took that position, we negotiated and we agreed on $85,000. So my first position, it was 40, and like I said, I got fired. Then my second position was $60,000. Then I got a raise a year later at $65,000. Stayed there for a while. I really loved the team, like I said. And then I got a position at $75,000. Worked there for 1 year. And now I got the last position, which is the one I was just talking about, at $85,000. I just want to make sure all that was clear and in the right order. And there, like I said, I was doing really well. I had a salary of $85,000, and then I would work part-time as well after work when I didn't have my kids, because at that point I was divorced, so I would have 50-50 custody with my children. So the days I did not have my kids, I would do MDSs at nights for another facility, and it was so much easier because my main job, I was the director, so I had assistants and all of that. But at my part-time job, all I have to do is go in, interview the residents, do the MDS assessments, and go home. And that took me to about $110,000 a year. So yeah, so as I was working these two jobs, I was also getting raises at my main job. So I would get raises about 3% every year. And I stayed there for about 5 years. And yeah, and after that, the pandemic happened. The pandemic happened. I was really doing well financially. I had successfully achieved my goal of making 6 figures. And yeah, so I ended up wanting to leave my job. I just wasn't happy there anymore. And I had went ahead and put in my 4 weeks notice, because when you're a manager, you have to put in 4 weeks notice. So I put in my 4 weeks notice, and then the world shut down. I wasn't thinking that I was gonna have a hard time finding a job, because at that point I was so good at what I did. But like I said, the world had shut down, and I was afraid of going to work anywhere, at any skilled nursing facility. So I did take like a little break. And then after my little break, I got over my little fear of getting, you know what, the pandemic or whatever. I got over that fear, and I started doing travel nursing, and I was making about $40 to $45 an hour. Okay, so now I'm at the point to where I'm doing travel nursing. I'm making between $40 to $45 an hour per case. But this is the thing that really brought my income to the next level, okay? They pay gas, they pay for mileage, they pay for food, they pay for my stay. So it kind of doubled my income. So I was making $10,000 a month, at least $10,000 a month, with all of the extra perks and stipends. So at that point, I was making over 6 figures without working 2 jobs. And I was doing really well, right? So I was really making 6 figures, and I decided I wanted to do my own thing. So yeah, so that's how I'm here. That's how I have my own agency and all of that. So anyways, what is the moral of this story? Did I come on here just to tell you, oh, this is how I made 6 figures? No. So if you stay to the end of the video, the moral of the story is, if you want to make more, you have to prove yourself. That's number one. You have to prove yourself. A lot of individuals, they want to go into the workforce and they feel like, I deserve to make this because the cost of living is so high. At the end of the day, nobody cares. Nobody cares about that. When you're working for a company, they want to know that you can bring it to the table. If you can't bring it to the table, they'll get rid of you. Just like that. Just like the first job got rid of me, right? Because I was too slow. I was messing up with their reimbursement. I was too slow. They didn't even give me a chance. I ended up being a superstar. I think it was something I needed for me to be the person that I became in my nursing career. But yeah, so you gotta bring it to the table. And if you really want to make 6 figures, I really believe you have to find a position where you're helping that company generate revenue. If you can help a company make more money, they can't afford to lose you. They can't, okay? So that is the key thing. Bring it to the table, okay? Don't just talk the talk, you gotta walk it, all right? And if you definitely wanna be up there 6 figures or whatever, then you definitely have to get to the point. You definitely have to be in a position where you can help that company generate money, all right? Companies are in business to make money unless you work for a non-profit. So for me, in nursing, since I worked at a skilled nursing facility, it would have been really hard for me to make 6 figures just as a regular floor nurse, especially back then, because I'm not generating income for them. I am in a way, because, you know, the residents need to be there, and that helps the company generate revenue. Yes, in a sense, but I'm not directly impacting revenue, okay? So yeah. So anyways, thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this chit chat. What time is it? Because I gotta go. Bye.